what we're trying to do. I hear a lot about the big distilleries, and we could never compete with big distilleries, but it's so structured, and one of the central things about our tasting is a variety, right? And so you just have to have a bunch of things in a tasting for me that can give you true variety, and I'm trying to compete. And I don't have the Rick houses that these big guys have. I mean, the big guys get you in there, and then you can have any barrel you want as long as it's one of these 5 that we got in front of you. What I want to do, and it's going to get even better with our new space, is I want there to be flexibility. I want there to be variability, and it's almost like, I'm a golfer, I'm a fisherman. It's like playing a great golf course or going to a great river. That's what I want people to feel like, that when they come to Backbone, it's like a course that they're playing or a river they're fishing. That's really, really fun. So yeah, absolutely. The barrel tastings are so great. It's one of the highlights of my my input into the business. So please come back. Really, we would love to have you back.
All right. So with that, let's get the actual podcast started.
Hey, Scotchy Bourbon Boys. This is Tiny to tell you about the new Dant Crossing. Dant Crossing is a one-of-a-kind destination to make lasting memories with family and friends. The pastoral campus is anchored by Log Still Distillery, where you can enjoy their truly outstanding Monks Road spirit. Enjoy world-class entertainment at their outdoor amphitheater, the AMP. Stay overnight at one of their unique lodging options. Host an unforgettable experience at their 18,000 square foot wedding and events venue. And enjoy acres of wooded walking trails and a 12-acre fishing lake. More attractions will open soon at Dant Crossing, including a fully functional private train depot and farm-to-table restaurant. For more information, go to www.dantcrossing.com.
This is Alan Bishop, head alchemist at Spirits of French Lick. Be on the lookout for a brand new bottled and bond Solomon Scott rye whiskey. Made from a mash composed of 65% rye, 35% corn, and 5% victory malt. This 5-year-old 100 proof rye whiskey is a throwback to early 1800s style rye whiskeys of the Ohio Valley. Named after the legendary Daisy Spring Mill distillery owner turned moonshiner Solomon Scott of Paoli, Indiana. Remember, drink responsibly and never drink and drive.
Sure fun to watch. We love what we do, we're drinking every brew, and we talk some shit, but we're telling the truth. Yeah, we're the Scotchy Bourbon Boys, raising some hell and making some noise. Yeah, we're the Scotchy Bourbon Boys, we're here to have fun and we hope you enjoy. We're here to have fun.
All right. Welcome back to another podcast of the Scotchy Bourbon Boys. Tonight we have a really awesome episode, but I'd like to thank Kenny Fuller of the Luca Mariano All-Americana Band and for the theme song. But tonight's we have Backbone Bourbon. We have Nolan Smith. Right here. Do you want to introduce yourself, Nolan?
Sure. Nolan Smith from Backbone.
From Backbone. So what is your official title? Co-owner? I mean,
Co-owner.
Yep. Okay. Co-owner. Yep. And then also we've got whiskey on. We pulled him in from what would you say? He's been kind of showing his face a little bit of, over the little bit of time when we've been in some.
He's been injured
stuff, but yeah, he's been having one heck of a time. But he's joining us for the podcast, and then we also have.
Oh, come on, Jeff. You can say it. I got sent down to the DL.
Yeah, exactly. But you're almost back. You know, you're getting ready to, you know, full swing. You know, at least you got the defense right now.
Yeah, I'm preparing to come back again.
All right, and then we have CT here. CT, I got to give you credit. You set this podcast up, so tonight you are going to take the helm somewhat. What I'm going to step back a little bit and let you, you know, work us through the questions and everything. You've got Nolan sent up the samples to you, and then you just got them. We got them distributed to us and everything. But at the same time, you did the pick. And I want you to, you know, take it from there.
Okay.
But
so
real quick, we're the Scotchy Bourbon Boys, www.scotchybourbonboys.com. Check it out for all Scotchy Bourbon Boys things. We got Glencairn's t-shirts and Scotchy Bourbon Balls. And then also follow us on all the major social medias, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. And then also listen on all the major podcast formats. But remember, like, listen, subscribe, and leave good feedback. And here you go, CT.
Hey, thanks, Tiny. But first and foremost, thank you, Nolan, for taking the time. We've been planning this for quite a while, so thank you for taking the time tonight to talk to us. 100%. I appreciate it.
Sure.
And so I met you. It's been almost 3 months ago when we were on a barrel pick with you, which ironically, that barrel pick is just getting ready to come out here shortly, which is kind of ironic, the timing of it. But, you know, I think the big thing I want is for you to tell people about Backbone, because in Ohio, it's not, you're not going to go in the store and see this sitting in a Giant Eagle or a Kroger. Tell us about what your brand is, what you've brought, how long you've been, tell us all about it.
Right. So I'm sorry we're not in Ohio, and it's Ohio's laws are pretty tough, and we're working on getting in there on our own terms, or more on our own terms. But you know, the thing about bourbon, bourbon is culture, right? And I can tell you, I've been all over this country selling bourbon, and there's nothing like Midwest, you know, Kentucky, Tennessee, which they don't consider themselves part of the Midwest, but there's a culture to this drink, you know, and the culture is the middle of that universe is in this part of the world. There's a several 100-mile radius, and Ohio is right smack dab in the middle of it. So, you know, Backbone started, our first product came out in 2010. We were able to benefit from the thousands and thousands of barrels that were down at MGP that were cheap. And we started the Backbone Uncut, which you have on your left there, as a private label for our distribution business in Indiana. That's it. We went down and met with, actually I emailed over there, and I got a 1-sentence bad grammar answer back. Yes, we can sell you some barrels. So we went down and bought some barrels. And we brought that out in 2010. We did Bone Snapper Rye in 2011. Central to those two products was a high proof. I mean, that was, I think, if at the time in 2010, there just wasn't a lot of high proof stuff out there. Booker's was maybe an ongoing small batch, relatively small batch, but there was nothing small batch that was barrel strength. And Backbone Uncut has really stayed the same for 13 years. It's 10 barrels at a time. We use minimal filtration. Whatever comes out of those barrels, that's the proof. In the early days we didn't, but nowadays we probably go through about 20, 25 barrels to come up with each batch of Uncut. So we're a high proof company. We got in early. We've had to bob and weave a lot. I think we've been a really good custodian of someone else's whiskey. MGP, well, before we didn't start with MGP. We started with a company called LDI, and then it became MGP in 2012, I think. But we had the hardest time selling MGP. We were very transparent from the very beginning. We let people know it was distilled in Lawrenceburg. If we could have said MGP, we probably would have, but the laws kind of kept us to a city and state. We didn't want to hide anything. We thought the whiskey was great, and we weren't ashamed to sell it. If someone didn't agree with us, then we had something to talk about. So, I think what Backbone has probably been 3 different versions of companies over the last, we really separated out in 2014. We raised capital, bought a bunch of barrels in 2014, separated the company. But we've probably been 2 or 3 different companies in, the 9 years that we've been in business. So why don't I stop it there, and I'll let you kind of see if there's anything interesting I just said. If not, I'll keep going.
Well, you mentioned bobbing and weaving. I mean, you were bobbing and weaving, and then the boom started hitting, and then you go through the pandemic.
Right.
But and then coming out of the pandemic, I mean, what you started then, I mean, I remember in 2000, I think it was early 2019, seeing a program that MGP actually would bring people in, and you'd go in a room and you could make your own personal brand of whiskey. Like, they would let you pick from barrels, they'd let you blend whatever you wanted to do, and then they'd sell it.
Right.
So like, if you wanted to do a special brand of whiskey for a wedding, or you wanted just to do a brand that I mean, that's what it was. That's how open they were.
Right.
And then when it started really catching on, how many brands now were buying the MGP, and that had to make, if I'm not mistaken, that just made the barrels become more and more expensive, because when you started, there were thousands of barrels to choose from, right? And as that got sold up, I mean, I think they even got to the point where they didn't have that much aged whiskey.
No. And I think they're kind of at that point again.
Yeah.
The direction I hear is that they're trying to build up the aged barrel business. I think they see it as a viable model because, but I think before the merger with Luxco, I think they just want to sell barrels, and they have their own brands, and I think there was always barrels that were set aside for those brands. But if it wasn't set aside for their own stuff, I think it was just open market. You could go in there with $2 million and buy whatever you wanted. That's my opinion. I'm not sure that I don't know if that's 100% true. I see a lot more deliberate behavior now. I think the Luxco thing is big. I see a lot more Luxco influence than I thought. It's a merger, but I think when the reason for bob and weaving is that we sell someone else's whiskey, and the first version of Backbone was, we just thought that Big Proof was really pretty unique.
Yeah,
I'll tell you, when we really got going in 2014, we started appointing distributors in other states. We just thought the bourbon boom would take care of us. We had our flag open for business, and we just thought it would be great, and it wasn't. I mean, we had a great label, we had pretty good tasting whiskey, but it just, we were kind of like, wow, this is a lot different from what we thought. We had to actually go out and sell it, and of course we did. I mean, we were so dumb. It's so competitive. It's more competitive now, but back in 2014, it was very competitive. So, we kind of bumbled along, and we were able to find some older whiskey, and that helped us a little bit. But we really struggled the first, 3 or 4 years. A turning point for us was a single barrel business, and I would say that started in about 2018. And for me, that was kind of a seminal moment in our business, because I really kind of saw the future of what we could do. We got into the single barrel business. I remember we had, we've always had older barrels. I mean, that's one of the things about getting into 2010. We've always been able to, bottle and sell older barrels. So, but I remember going to a customer and going, I've got 4 barrel samples. They were all from the same barrel date. They're 6 years old. Which one do you want? And the guy went through them and went, these are like the 3 of these are like pretty much the same, and the one's a little different. I think I'll take that one. So it kind of made me think, we got to really do something different to make our stuff. We got to have some variety, and so that's where the finishing stuff came in. And so I just started to buy every single different finishing barrel I could find. Traditional, we all know what those are: sherry, port, rum. But they're non-traditional. If I get my hands on, something weird and wonderful sounding, I'd buy it. And really, the flavors, having gone through all those different finishing barrels, we started to find different flavors that weren't necessarily directly from MGP. Those flavors gave us ideas on what if we did that and that and that together. So that's kind of where we're at right now. I mean, we really are a company that likes to blend. We feel like we're more of a restaurant where, let's say I'm a chef and I'm using the base ingredients to I'm elevating the base ingredients to create something complex and compound. And the Forge and the Big Bash, which Chris has, those are really good examples of what we're doing. So let me stop there and let you guys talk, because.
Well, let's instead of talk, let's taste. So let's talk it. So you've got the Forge in front of you, Jeff. So let's and Carl, you have the Forge.
Yes,
You have the Forge.
Yeah, you do. That's the big bottle.
Let's start with that one. And let's start with that one and kind of go through this one, and then we'll kind of move on and talk in between.
Well, the interesting
So I'm going old school, brother. Look at that right there, huh? That's a pocket. That's a pocket size.
Absolutely.
You know what this is? This is a good morning at work. That's what size.
Yeah,
that
that's
is.
it.
I mean, reading about it and how unique it is, and how much as a blend, and then also having a little bit, sipping a little bit. I think
Drink the Forge.
the rules of whiskey and bourbon kind of hold back, and I think we're going to evolve into the fact that you're going to be able to blend a rye, a bourbon. You use the so the reason why this is still Backbone Bourbon, the Forge, is because even though you put the 95.5 rye in there, you also put enough of the 99.1% corn, and that still had your final total above 50% corn, and that's why it can still be a bourbon, correct? But that's very unique in that's a really great interpretation of the rules. I mean, I really was intrigued by that. And, I had to think about it to how the rule works to be bourbon. But then also I'm excited because, some places are just, they're mixing in single malts with, and what did Johnny Walker do for how many years? I mean, that's what they did in Scotch. I mean, there's so many things we haven't done with American whiskey that has been done for hundreds of years over in, Scotland, England, and everywhere over there. But it makes it exciting, because I think that's the reason why this bourbon boom and this whiskey boom is going forward, is because they brought you in with bourbon and it all went well, but now they're expanding out with so much more, right?
Right.
And
so
you're doing
Jeff,
a good job.
Yeah. So Jeff, I mean, some people could say, "Oh, you're blending," and that's kind of an age-old tradition. Yeah, and I think that's true. But what? And if you had to ask me, where is the front line of the next step, or the next step that is now, it's a word that I call innovation. And blending is one thing. Innovation is another step. There's something behind blending, and I can talk more about it. But we do a lot of rebarreling at Backbone, a ton. Some of our most popular single barrels are just straight bourbon that's been dumped and then put in another barrel, a special finishing barrel, not finished, just another good quality new oak, number 3 char, depending on what it is. And we're creating our own flavors, and then we're blending. That's kind of what I mean by innovation. We're creating what goes into the blend, whereas blending is, I see it as more of a passive thing. So
do you do any blends and then put that blend back into a new charred oak barrel? I mean, have you done it where you've mixed it and then
oh my god, you went there. I'm so glad. So I don't want to get too technical, right? But we definitely have an experimental lab at Backbone, and most of it works out, some of it doesn't work out. But Chris, I just sent you an email. I know you don't have your laptop in front of you,
Right.
but so this product, I'm going to put it up on the screen here like this.
Oh yeah,
You don't have it. We have, this is a very allocated product, which is probably why we didn't send it, but I have no problem sending it to you. But so it's an anniversary edition. It's been out since 2020. It just got 93 points at Whiskey Advocate. And I don't remember a purely MGP product getting 93 points at Whiskey Advocate. I think the average whiskey drinker doesn't really know about Whiskey Advocate. No one cares about it. But if you're in the industry, you care about it. So I don't know if that, I don't know that means anything, but but it's, and they do have the fancy language, and they do have it's got the creme brulee and all that stuff. And that's fine. But it's still, the thing about getting rated at Whiskey Advocate is that they get hundreds and hundreds of requests to be reviewed every edition. I think they have 6 editions every year. Just to get reviewed is kind of a big deal. Decade Down was 93, was a top rated bourbon with 2 others in the summer edition. So the reason I'm saying that is that it's a blend of really good straight bourbon. It's 6-7 year old MGP, and then it's MGP bourbon finished in Oloroso sherry barrels for more than a year. And it's about a 25% Oloroso bourbon, 75% straight bourbon, and it just gives it a little twist. You still get, it's a great bourbon. You're not going to think it's not a bourbon, but there's an accent there that's really cool. This last batch, the 2022, we actually double barreled some sherries, and we actually went down. We used less than 25%. We actually used 15%. We got this bourbon and sherry so bitter that if you tasted out of the double sherry, you would have gone, this is crazy. This is nuts. This is never sell. But when you put that with great bourbon, it just sort of gave it something different and cool. And so that's innovation for me, that if you can do things like double barreling sherry, that's what I'm talking about. That's what we kind of are working our butts off at Backbone to what can we do that's different? What can we do how can we create, and how can we use our base ingredients to create something different that can be blended in and be a cool product? So I don't know. That's a long-winded way of saying yes. Yes.
Nolan, where are you doing your blending at? Where is home for Backbone?
Indianapolis, Indiana.
Okay.
Yeah, we do most of the stuff that we do is in our office. We pull a lot of samples from Eighth Day.
And talk about Eighth Day a little bit, because I don't think people realize what that is, because I did not until I went here.
Yeah. So that's our second source. We got on with them about 3.5 years ago. we will start using their whiskey in about a year or so. Everything they make is pot still. So it's really handcrafted. Their whiskey is really high quality. In fact, it's so good that I've asked the owner, Matt, to do a little less quality, and it's going to sound really nuts. And what I mean by that is that, in a distillation, there's a head, there's a heart and tail. I want his heart to be a little bit longer. And so we mainly use the tails. We can use a little bit of the heads, but for me, if I have really great soft bourbon, it's great. But if I want to balance it out with something, I need something else. A very inexpensive bourbon barrel, not long aged or not long air dried, provides a great astringency. And MGP has these barrels. There are some barrels that have more of this than others. We look for those barrels and we put them aside because they can be really important in balancing out the flavor. Everyone loves to eat dessert, but they can't eat two bowls. They want a balancing flavor. They want their richness, but they want that astringency. And so the great thing about Eighth Day is their whiskeys are phenomenal, and that Matt and I have a great relationship where I can really influence what they make for us. We will have our own mash bill by the end of the year. So, and he and I are talking about separating the identities of the company. He's a rock star. He's going to be in Indianapolis. He is the best distiller, I think. But we're thinking about the future, and then our whiskeys need to taste different. So I plan to use his whiskey with MGP, and I'm going to blend the both of them. And that should give me a different identity. That should give me a unique identity.
Yeah.
If even more so than kind of if I can do it with just MGP, if I can create my own identity with just that, I can definitely do it with two different sources of whiskey. So,
well, at MGP, are you contract distilling with them, or are you just purchasing? You're purchasing barrels, which, right? And then now you're technically with the new, what was the name of the place?
Eighth Day.
You're
Eighth Day.
Basically, he's contract distilling for you. He's
right.
doing your mash bills. He's running it on the pot still. So then contract distilling is one thing and purchasing barrels is another. But then when you start blending them, that is something that is unique, because you're taking two distilleries. One you've got they're making exactly what you want, and then you're blending it with what you can get. And that's that you definitely are getting into the way my mind works. It's just like there's so much that can happen. And even what we talked with Alan Bishop at Spirit of French Lac. He loves the pot still. But he also loves to uncover stuff that was being done pre-prohibition that was just buried. And he doesn't stick to it. Doesn't have to just be whiskey. It can be brandy. It can be,
absolutely,
everything. And, I didn't know until like last year about this time that there's you see how people ferment. They all. They have the fermenting tanks. It takes a couple days. Some people go out 7 days. But there's a thing called natural fermentation where you just basically don't add the yeast. You throw it outside. You let it ferment. And in about a month, it catches. I mean, there's so much that can be done for how things are, distilled. And you seem to be diving into that technical aspect.
Well, I'll give you one more thing with why I'm so excited about Eighth Day is that Matt and I, we change up a few things in our distillation. We changed the entry proof, so we go from 108 to 120. We change up the char and the toast of the barrel. So we do, I got to tell you, heavy toast, low char. It's a fascinating concept. It's a really fascinating concept. I'm pretty sure that at MGP, most of it, I don't think there's any toast. I think it's just a number 3 char. But you put a big toast on that, and you do a little char, oh my God, you got a game changer. So There's variability in the pot still. I mean, you can do the same thing, same barrels, same entry proof. You'll get difference because it's a much more, it's like having an industrial kitchen versus, cooking at home. I mean, there's going to be variability, and I want that. I want variability because I go through all my barrels and I go, that thing can be that, and that thing can be that, and this thing can be where I think it can be. I want variability. It's for me, it's like a Pandora's box, because you give me variability, I'm going to thrive.
CP?
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, that's the thing, like you have so many different barrels, and we tasted a lot of them. And unfortunately today we're only tasting 3 because you have so many good things going on. It's insane. But
yeah,
I personally can attest to the fact that there is not anything that I drank that you put together that I was like, wow, this could be the pick. This could be the pick. I mean, it was bottle after bottle, barrel after barrel. And so I think it's pretty amazing that you're doing what you're doing. And I like the innovative side of it, because yes, there are the people that are going to drink the #1 selling bourbon and whiskey in the world, Jack Daniels or Jim Beam.
You mean 90% of people who drink whiskey?
Right. So there's still going to be those people, but I'm telling you, there's a flood of people that are looking for something different. And there are people who are looking for finishes. There are people who are looking for flavors. There are people who are looking for, hey, I want my friends to try this bottle instead of what they've already had. And we see that all the time, because, you're out with your friends and you're like, hey, you got all these bottles, let's try something new. Well, what's different? Because not everybody can taste just the differences between a caramel and a butterscotch. But boy, if you throw in a 90% rye or 95% rye, you're going to taste the pepper that affects on the bourbon. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what's so great with what you do, is that there's complexity.
Yeah.
But it's almost weird that I can tell when I drink yours that this is Backbone. I know this is not. I know, and I'm not a god of this. I could drink Buffalo Trace all day long, and I can tell you it's nowhere close. Mm-hmm. It's totally different, but yours has a different flavor profile because it is complex.
Well, thank you, Chris. I know the MGP flavor profile so well, and I can tell all the listeners tonight that if you wanted to sum up MGP in a sentence, it's soft and sweet. It's really just a beautiful drink. Maybe that's better for people that aren't as accustomed to bourbon, but I don't know that that's true necessarily. With our rebarreling, and I'm talking about taking just a second bourbon barrel and putting MGP, it gives it heft, it gives it structure, which creates something different. I'll still take the one barrel, the original MGP any day long. The uncut's that way, and it'll stay that way. But you put an extra barrel, you put extra char, extra oak in there, and something really cool happens. And I know for a fact that the big companies can't handle. In our industry, we call it handling. I mean, they can't handle all the nuances of this barrel, that barrel. Let's get it in from here and there. And I mean, at Backbone, we're doing like a triple and a quadruple barreling. And that's a whole nother discussion that we don't have to talk about tonight. But that's just a pain in the ass for the big guys, because they just don't have the nimbleness to do it. But if you got a small guy like me that's trying his ass off, I can do it, and that's how I get to compete. That's how I get to take MGP and elevate it and make it get 93 points from Whiskey Advocate, which is the most influential voice in our industry, at least publication wise. So,
yeah, I agree, Nolan. I think that the big guys, and regardless of which distillery you talk about, there's only so much they can do because they know what works for them, and they're going to stay with what works. It's like, at Wild Turkey, Jimmy Russell, his thing is Wild Turkey 101. Even though his other products are gaining steam, still 101 is still his mainstay of product. But it's nice when you can take and branch off of it and say, okay, this is good, But like earlier tonight, I drank a Russell's single barrel pick, and it's fantastic. But not everybody is going to do that, and that's kind of like what you're saying is you're taking that and okay, here's the condensed version and a little more unique.
I think that, I really think that the bourbon groups around the country is my target market. The person that's drank bourbon for 40 years, I think they would love our bourbon, but I don't think I can get them. I don't think I can get them easily. But the person that's looking for something cool, something different, something to be wowed by, I think I can get them. You can't get those allocated. I'm not going to mention them, but they're just not available. So finding, and that's why the single barrel groups have been so popular, is that they find stuff that they own, that they found, they had fun finding, and they can go out and get excited about it. So
you said it. It's like what you've been describing. You should use it. You said it just now. I was thinking it for like the last 5 minutes. The reason your marketing campaign should be that you're fun. That's what it is. Everything that you're doing it and it's fun. You love the blend. It's all different things. You're not looking for that consistency of that. Nobody ever gets, I mean, it's funny because up until like the 1980s, the goal of a master distiller of any single place, the hardest thing to do was to consistently put the same bourbon, right? That when someone bought the bottle, that it would taste the same.
Right.
And up until now, like about 2019, people were still looking for that. Like if you bought, even when you bought now Booker's, they kind of, and same thing with Blanton's single barrel, that was like they kind of, but forever Blanton's, when after it came out, was on the shelf and people didn't even know what to think about it. But then all of a sudden now people understand they don't want just consistency. Consistency was mastered, right?
Right.
So we don't have to have consistency anymore, because what was the hardest thing to do in the industry is now been done. So now you can look for variety, and people have been accepting that. And that is a blast. And we've been having a blast. And it's fun talking to you because you said it. It's fun. You go in, you do the pick. It's fun to do the pick. It's fun to taste different whiskeys. Go ahead.
Listen, I've never been on a pick where anybody was unhappy.
It's fun.
Yeah.
It's like tonight,
amazing.
Kentucky Bourbon Festival contacted me and they want me to go on the New Riff pick for Kentucky Bourbon Festival. And they're like, can you be there at 10 a.m. on Friday morning and ask off work? And I'm like, yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, I'm in. Let me check my I can.
The pick. I'm not turning that down. But that's the kind of stuff that happens. You know what I mean? And that's the fun of the industry. And I think as long as you're like you said, you're working on getting a tasting place to do the barrel picks and everything, and you supply that fun. That is the key. I mean, look at Whiskey Thief in Kentucky. Right. I mean, they don't sell anything on the shelf. They just basically thief the barrels consistently and switch them out,
Yeah. I want to tell you funny. We're on Uncut, right, Chris?
Oh my God, this is killing me.
It's not. I've really enjoyed it tonight. It's probably my favorite one. I got to tell you a funny story about the name. So
what
in
number?
Uncut. So that is for us A.
We go to A.
So don't go to A if you don't want to go back to anything else, because it's insane.
I thought that was insane.
Oh, you're about ready to be blown up out of the water.
Yeah.
That is delicious.
I'm dyed in the wool. My favorite Backbone product forever will be this bottle that we just poured.
Damn.
I want to tell you a quick funny story about the name. 2010, my partner and I have got barrel samples from MGP. We've got the 36% bourbon. We've got the 21%, and we like the 21%, but it's barrel strength. It's like 118 proof, and we have a cookout at our business, our warehouse, and I get it's a 200 ml, and we're probably down to about 80 mLs. And I get my partner. I get this friend of mine that owns a bar in Indy that has a bourbon bar, and I'm a senior guy at our other company, and the four of us are kind of sitting around the back of the warehouse, and it's a beautiful summer night. The stars out, and I pour the whole thing into a Glencairn, and the idea is that my friend gets to taste the first bit and to evaluate what we think we should do. Should we cut it or not cut it? That's the question. Should we? It's good, but and then we would all go around and kind of have like one last taste of the sample that we're going to make a business decision on. So my friend who owns the bar like turns his back to us, looks up at the stars, kind of gives it a swirl like this, and damn, he downs the whole damn thing. And the three of us that are left are like looking at him with our jaws, way down, and he's like licking his lips, and he's like, "Don't cut it." So we call it uncut, and I don't know that since 2010, I don't think anyone's called their bourbon uncut, but it's a very special product that will never change as long as I'm involved. So 10 barrels at a time, MGP. These are all about 5.5-year-old MGP, 21%. We use minimal filtration. Whatever the proof is, that's proof. That's what you get. So we like a little bit of black dust in the bottom of the bottle if you haven't had any in a while, because that's the char that's in the bottom. Yeah. So
I mean, you're right up there. It's right up there with what Booker's does. I mean, uncut, unfiltered, as close as you can get to what the master, and then,
right.
But now you don't expect people to actually proof this down themselves, do you?
I'm proofing it down with saliva.
Well, Booker actually, when he put Booker's out, he wanted to supply it so that whoever bought it, nobody drank barrel strength at the time, would just proof it to what they wanted. And little did he know that we would evolve into this, right?
Right. Booker's was a big, we looked at that as kind of the mark that someone had done this before. No, if you have a really serious whiskey drinker, they don't put any ice on it. So they might put a drop of water in it. Now when I'm with my mates and I want to drink a Backbone uncut, I'm going to put a big rock on it. Let it kind of slowly melt. But if you want the flavor, the proof is in the flavor. But it's not about getting every minuscule amount of flavor out of something. Sometimes you just want to be with your friends and enjoy whatever you got in front of you. And I think water is going to be a good way to do that. So
hot nights, or like if it's really hot, it's good to put it on. I mean, I like putting whiskey on crushed ice as a refreshing drink. I love to sit on my back porch on a cool night. Like tonight is perfect in Ohio. If you got the fire going, I'm going to drink it neat. I like whiskey generally neat, but there's times when if you just pour it in there, and I can tell you this, it's usually if you get some crushed ice and you order a pour, you order let's just say just a regular bar standard, you're going to get more bourbon in the glass, opposed to if you get a pour where they're measuring out perfectly 2 ounces or 1 ounce, whatever. But normally you like, oh, give me Jim Beam on the rocks, and it's like you get the big glass with it completely full.
Nolan, I hope this doesn't make you upset, but earlier before the podcast, I made an old fashioned with this bottle, and it was fantastic. We're drinking, we just finished them. And it's like, I tell people, I'm like, they say, oh, you can't use good and old fashioned. No, you use the best use the best bourbon you have, and you will get the best old fashioned you've ever had. And that made a fantastic old fashioned.
Love it.
So tomorrow I'm going to be making it with the uncut.
Okay.
Because it can only get better.
Yeah. You want to talk about the Big Bash?
Let's talk about it.
Wait. So far, whiskey. What are you thinking so far on the first two that you've tasted?
No, I'm ready to start spitting out T-shirt sayings so you can go copyright them, Nolan. I got to tell you, as you were telling us the story about how you blend and what your philosophy is, and that you're triple barreling and quadruple barreling just to see what it does to the whiskey. I'm sitting here going, I can't tell you the number of craft distilleries that say they're craft distilleries. And I pick up the bottle and it's a story about their dog.
Yeah.
Or Aunt Emma.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, as you were talking, and I'm literally going, putting the craft back into craft distilling. And I'm like, man, that'd be a great slogan for you guys. Like, I'd buy that
Craft
t-shirt.
back into craft distilling. I love it. I absolutely love it.
Wait a minute. I thought it was going to be something about have a backbone, drink backbone. I mean,
yeah.
We've already gotten comments about how bourbon needs a backbone.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's a great name. There's no doubt about it.
It goes with the proof.
Yeah, definitely.
And when you print the backside of your t-shirt, you can just print the spine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and we got to put like a thanks to whiskey because he gave us the idea. Maybe we could shorten
just I tell you what, I'll just take a royalty for every 1,000 bottles you sell. You send me
I'll send up a contract right now. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. I will tell you,
putting craft back into the craft distilling. I love it, man. I love it.
I mean, your story is literally. There's a lot of people that use craft distilling as an adjective, craft distilling. But the reason they're using craft is because they're only going at 10 barrels or 15 barrels or 20 barrels, and they're small batch. And
right,
if you just take those barrels and dump them into a pot and put it in a bottle, I don't know how much thought is going into the craft distilling piece, right?
Right.
Where you guys are literally, you're tasting and you're saying this needs to go back into this barrel, and what if we put this over here? And I just literally there you've reinvigorated craft for craft distilling.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm very excited. And I got to tell you, ordinarily I would probably be cracking jokes because that's kind of my role.
It is.
When you look at the three of us, I'm definitely the eye candy and the personality.
Oh, I agree. Completely agree.
Yeah.
And I mean that.
I have a hard time. I have a hard time with this.
But but I got to tell you, this forge. When I'm so happy we started with that. I took my sip and I'm like, ooh, that nose, ooh, that flavor profile. I mean, I have to tell you, I mean, I would put this on my bar next to my Pappy and my Weller 12 and my Full Proof, and I wouldn't be ashamed to have this sitting on that shelf.
Yeah,
this is some damn fine whiskey. And the thing that shocks the hell out of me is you said it. I think it was 6.5 years old.
Yeah,
and I think you're blending. What you're doing is adding a level of sophistication without having to add the age.
Yeah.
So, Nolan, where are you actually from? Where you have
South Africa. South Africa.
Oh,
I've been in Indiana for a long time. I'm more Hoosier than I was South Africa, but I was there long enough that I got the accent. Although when I go back, my mates all tease me that I'm an American. So
it's interesting. Nolan, I'm actually going to South Africa in November for my vacation.
Kidding? Really?
Oh,
No,
really?
Cape Town and Safari. Is that what you're doing?
right?
Yeah, so we're hitting Johannesburg for a couple of days, and then off to Safari for 3, and then gonna go stay down in Cape Town on the coast for at one of the resorts.
He just doesn't know that on the safari he's the main attraction.
Well, you know what? They did say they were going to be hunting for elephants.
Yeah,
and, I mean,
that wasn't what they meant. They were talking about hyenas, and they're hunting for hyenas. So you're done.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
he's going for it.
Honestly, I'm just going to take a pocket full of money and pay the driver to move out of the way of the Land Rover, and I'm going to drive.
Yeah. You're going to have a blast, man. Cape Town is really unique. There's no city like it. I mean, it's got oceans and mountains all at once. But Safari there's nothing like it. It's a cool trip. You got to really love it.
So do you bring whiskey back every time you go back?
Actually, I always try to bring something back with me. So I don't know what they'll have in South Africa, but I'm bringing it.
Yeah.
I will tell you, it's interesting. The resort, you can sign up for activities, and it's like you can swim with the penguins, or you can go and swim with the white sharks.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? I think I'm going to sit at the bar, and I'm going to let the penguin swim with the sharks, and that way the sharks get to eat.
All right, we got a couple comments here. A question. So, at 8th Day is Matt. What's Matt's last name?
Lamping.
Matt Lamping. Okay, there you go.
And his wife works at the bar. She runs the front of the store.
Yeah,
or front of the building.
Jamie runs the front, so yeah, she's full time in the business as of about a year and a half ago. So,
all right, and David says he really can sense that you care about your final output, and he gives you props, and you could tell that. And also, let's see, where are you actually distributed right now? Like, is there an online presence that somebody could go to?
Yeah. So Backbone Bourbon.com will tell you the distribution in the States. We stayed away from state controlled franchise states, which is unfortunately Ohio, but we'll be in Ohio soon enough. But
you're working with them?
Pardon?
You're working with Ohio at the moment?
Yeah, we've got someone that we like, and I think it'll be a good deal. You know, the thing about a franchise state is that you have to pay to leave. If they don't sell for you, you still have to pay them to leave. So,
but Nolan, you're in Indiana, so it is available. So it's not like most of Ohio can't get there. You know, so if they do want
get there.
Yeah, but hey, I mean, come on, Ohio is. I mean, they decide all the presidential elections, right?
Not the last one.
We got it.
Well, that tells you we did up until the last one, but we probably did decide it, but it wasn't.
The most biggest cities of any state, right? Are Cleveland, Toledo, Cincinnati,
Columbus,
Canton, Dayton. I mean,
Dayton's big. I mean,
between
thank you, Dayton.
Yeah.
Dayton, Columbus, Cincinnati, that triangle, you can argue is probably the biggest bourbon vein in the country. OHLQ talking, you know, Ann Dimmick, super supporter of the Scotchy Bourbon Boys, and she basically works with just props to Ann and everything she's doing. But now they're going for the Cleveland market because that's untapped. I mean, you go north in Ohio and it's a big market, but there's not a lot of people that are into bourbon the way they are in Columbus, Dayton, and Cincinnati, and there's no reason why it shouldn't be that way. And they're working on that.
I'm okay with that, Jeff, because those are the stores I shop in. So it's okay that people aren't into the bourbon.
It's not okay. You got to look at the greater picture. You can't just be selfish for yourself. You join us and you'll get enough.
Wait a minute. What store did he say he shops in? Because I'm sure that he didn't say Banana Republic.
He said Leprechaun.
Oh,
I did.
I've never heard of Banana Republic, but
whiskey has.
Just kidding.
Are you kidding me? I shop at Kids R Us.
Yeah.
He used to shop at Target, but he doesn't anymore.
Now,
you know, Chris, honestly, I just go to Kids R Us and I go straight to the big and tall section and I buy a 15X.
he was scared of Target because of all the multiple colors that were on every shirt.
Are you kidding me? I look at that bullseye and I just want to stand in the parking lot and throw stuff at it. I never can get into the store.
All right.
I want to do that plunger guy, right?
Hey, Jim,
you just throw plungers at it.
One plug about Big Bash. And we'll kind of finish off my my spiel on the products. But, you know, I've been working on Big Bash for about a year and a half, and it came out of all these single barrels that we're tasting. And I just felt there were some wonderful flavors that if we could kind of put them together. I don't remember all the finishing barrels that we used in Big Bash. I should, but I don't remember. But one of them was bourbon finished in banana rum.
What?
But there was
that. So that's the fruit flavor. I said it's got a floral fruit.
You said bourbon finished banana rum.
Banana rum. Yep. One barrel.
We got that. Nolan, we got
I
that
want
problem
to
with
know what
Jeff. He loves
banana
to dip
rum
his
tastes
banana
like. I've
into the
never
bourbon.
had banana rum. That sounds delicious. So that's the last
Sounds like a
one we're
band.
tasting here, CT. That's B.
So banana. Oh, how ironic is it that it's B for banana? Like I did that on purpose.
That's it. B for banana. It's mostly bourbon, rum, port, rye port, but it's got some bourbon and Grand Marnier in there. I think there's some bourbon and apple brandy barrel.
It's very unique, Nolan. When you drink this, it's what I was telling Dirk as we were sitting here. I'm like, the floral and fruit notes on this are so much different than these two.
Yeah.
So
Very different, Chris.
Yeah.
CT.
So Chris, I mean, everyone thinks they can blend, right? If you stop blending stuff and you stop putting out products, you got to have them taste. They got to have their own identity, right?
Yeah, this is completely different.
Right. And what I wanted was something exotic and sweet, but not too sweet. I wanted to have an echo of a bourbon flavor. Our description is a blend of straight bourbon and rye. I think there's 7 different finishing barrels in there. 90% of the blend is that, and then 10% is just really good straight bourbon to balance it out. But it just came out great. This one got 90 points on the Whiskey Advocate summer edition, and I'm just thrilled because this is an out there product. I mean, this is not something that I think the traditional bourbon drinker would go, oh yeah, I think I'll take some of that. It was definitely a risk. But
well, Nolan, this isn't a single barrel. This isn't something that just came out of the barrel and you said, hey, here it is, drink it and see if you like it. This took some work.
It was the most complex blending we've done. It took me we were working on the blend for about 18 months. And in the last 6 months, we went back and forth. And we finally got it right. And I think it came out in January of 2023. So we wanted to get out in June of 22, but it just took longer than we thought. But I couldn't be prouder. So here's the tough part is like, how do I get back to that?
My question.
I have no idea how I'll get back to it, but it's we'll get back to that. But I've got more bourbon and banana brandy. I can tell you that.
Two parts. Okay. So you said banana rum or banana brandy?
We had both barrels. It's probably banana rum.
Okay. So this is picking up a rum. So a lot of times when you get we know Turner Wathen, who basically puts rum in bourbon barrels. Mm-hmm. And this is picking up the kind of like when you drink the rum that's finished in a Pappy barrel, let's say, or a whatever. I taste the rum in this. I'm picking up the rum in the banana more so than you would in like the normal finished bourbon, whatever. But that's probably you use so many barrels that you mixed, right?
Yeah, 30% of the blend is bourbon finished in Barbados rum barrels, and then there's the banana rum. So you should be getting a lot of rum, and that's rum finished bourbons have that kind of like tropical. There's something fun about those kind of finishes. It adds
the coconut and the banana in there.
Coconut's a great description. I love that.
It's well, I initially before bourbon in my younger days, I was a rum drinker. Everybody knows it. The reason why is I could drink a bottle of rum when we went down with Turner. We were drinking a lot of rum, rum finished, in bourbon barrels, but it doesn't, for whatever reason, I should have been a pirate. I say it all the time.
Yes.
I could have just drank rum all day.
Yes.
Not fallen off the boat at night, woke up the next day feeling fresh and fancy. And so rum always agreed with me where I can overdo it with whiskey and wake up the next day. That kind of thing. But when you combine the two things I love the most right now, that's when you really get into something that's special. So, but not everybody's like that. But this is absolutely fantastic.
Sure. I think there's a little bit of, I think if you love rum, I think you might actually there might be a crossover for sure. it's got that exotic tropical kind of thing to it.
It's like I'll take 5 bottles.
Nolan, yeah, I was going to say, Nolan, you got to choose your words carefully around Jeff.
Yeah.
I mean, you're starting to use a lot of trigger words. You started out by saying sweet, but not too sweet, and exotic, and now you're saying crossover. You're basically describing his Tinder profile.
His Tinder profile.
Wow. Thanks, Carl. Thanks, Whiskey. I appreciate that one.
This would be a lot more fun in person. I'm having a lot of fun. But this,
so speaking of in
together, it would be a lot more.
So you need to pull us down on a day that you're doing some tastings and blendings, and you have it. Just invite the Scotchy Bourbon Boys down.
Yeah.
We would love to be able to see how your process is and how you taste. That would be a blast. Wouldn't it?
You can count on it. You can count on it for sure. It'll happen.
Yeah, maybe we can we'll actually get a professional videographer so I don't look like I'm blue in a Papa Smurf, and we can clip that together and stick it out on our YouTube.
We're just gonna have to talk to. I'm just gonna have to give you the camera that you need to get, that you just hook up and then you just mount it.
Well, that was fine until the sun went down. I'm actually sitting where I usually sit and looking at the lake, and then the sun went down and my lighting changed. I didn't count on that.
And right now you're being
think
lit
this
by
all the way
TV.
through.
It's obvious the TV is lighting you.
Yeah.
Well, because you know what? My other alternative for my light is this, Jeff. It's literally this.
Yeah, that's okay.
I'm like, hey, this isn't obvious, is it, anyone? No.
Hey, real quick, Nolan, I think that the thing for anybody watching to know and understand is I don't think it matters what your taste profile is, whether you start with the forge or you go the uncut. Just the 3 that we're drinking today, I can't imagine one of those 3 not hitting anyone's profile, because they are so good. For me, I like them all, but there may be somebody who says, well, I like this one better than that one. I get that, but they are unique. And I think that for people looking for something different, that's the thing that Backbone brings us, that it's not just your everyday stuff that you're going to go buy on a shelf at any of our local stores. So
I mean, the hardest thing is we thought it for years is, you buy from MGP. It's just we know the flavor profile of MGP. The hardest part for me is to get them to try our stuff, because there's a step or 2 beyond what MGP is. So I think, what I want, what I'd love for people to the reputation I'd love to have is that people look at Backbone and go, those guys know how to put whiskey together. So I'll give it a try. If there's a new product and it's Backbone, I'll give it a try. I mean,
sure,
these guys are thoughtful and they know what they're doing, and I'll give it a try. I mean, maybe I don't like it. That's fine. Don't worry about it. But that's the kind of reputation I want.
I mean, it just comes down to the people putting out the whiskey. If they understand the industry, obviously you do, because I've just tasted 3 of your whiskeys you put out. They're unique in themselves, and I guarantee you, I was on your website. You have a whiskey for somebody that doesn't like it as sweet. These are very sweet up front, but I know you have a whiskey that's not quite as sweet, and that's more for that bourbon drinker who just likes that bourbon flavor, but they don't want that, they don't want the dessert aspect of it. But you understand all the different types of palates, and what I found is that there are, when you're distilling, for instance, the 95.5 that comes out of MGP. That's what I've had some, for instance, I believe 95.5 was Bullet Rye for a long time. I can't stand Bullet Rye. And I know that's where they were sourcing. So, but yourself picking barrels of 95.5, and the same thing, Aaron Harris, who was at Watershed, who's now at Green River, those barrels there are very delicious barrels of 95.5. It's just, they know, but when you have a palate that understands what you're what you're tasting, and you even use the word astringent.
Yes.
So
Very important.
most people in this industry.
Oh my God. I want astringency. I want those barrels.
Astringent, right?
100%. Yeah.
But you're talking about how you can use the astringency
Absolutely
to
balance.
make the bourbon special
Balance.
or the whiskey that you're doing special because it
Balance.
has a little bit of flavor.
100%.
And you don't have to be Heaven Hill, who basically hides the fact that that's what they do.
Well, you know, I gotta hand it to the big guys. I mean, they know how to blend stuff together. They put it in a barrel, and there's no more beyond that. And then they got the barrels, and they have master tasters, and they go through all the barrels, and they kind of figure out the flavor profile, and they kind of put them in a lane to be certain things. And if they're not in that lane, then they get thrown out and whatever. But astringency is so. Look, I got to tell you, I have my first love of alcohol was wine. I'm a wine guy. I'll be a wine guy till my on my deathbed. And there's something about acidity in wine that just, if you don't have acid, it just makes the wine flabby. And so maybe you want one glass, maybe you'll have one glass and you go, yeah, that's fine. But two glasses, like, nah. Acidity kind of holds it up, balances it out. And I think a lot about, my blending approach because of my wine experience. That astringency, it doesn't sound like a great word. I got to find a better word for it, actually, to be honest. But I'm looking for those barrels that can help me kind of, my daughter had a McDonald's cheeseburger the other day, and I had a bite. And you know why they put the pickles in there? It's because you got all that fat from the patty, but that pickle provides acidity
with the mustard and the ketchup. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, it's a balance.
It creates something that it might not be good for you.
Absolutely.
You
100%.
cannot deny that it doesn't taste insanely delicious.
They've balanced out. They, as simple as it may sound, McDonald's has figured out how to blend a burger, and that pickle is really important.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I mean, and one thing that you can't make everybody happy, because it doesn't matter. You could have the best bourbon there ever was, but there's going to be a good amount of people that will absolutely hate it, because that's just how the world works.
Sure.
Everybody's taste buds are different. Everybody tastes something different. So, most people like lobster, and there's a good amount of people who don't or are allergic.
Sure.
I think the good thing, Nolan, for you to get out there is that you're doing something that everybody knows. There's so many people using MGP stuff. I mean, in a world today where I see it and I'm like, I don't really care, because I care about the end product. But there are so many people that judge immediately, like, oh, they're using MGP,
right?
Or whatever.
We've tasted that before, yeah.
Right. But what you're doing is you're not buying an MGP barrel and then selling that MGP barrel to somebody. You're selling it with a finish that is different than what most people are going to experience. And I think that's
you're making it your own.
Yeah, and that's what people,
absolutely proprietary, absolutely, 100%.
People need to understand that's what they're getting with Backbone, is that it may be MGP or it may be 8th Day that's doing the distilling, but it's what you're buying is
I'm the chef.
Blend.
Yeah, I'm the chef, right? And I hate that. I wish there was a better way to say it, but I'm the chef, right? And I'm figuring out how to take these great ingredients and elevate them and make it a more complex compound product.
Yeah,
and I
there's
think
nothing wrong with that.
And then involve the process, right?
If I had to, exactly. If I had to, the only thing I'll give you tonight that I think is the new wave of the bourbon trend is that innovation is kind of where we're at right now. I think and it'll be a small part of the bourbon business because the big guys dominate. The traditional flavor profiles will never go away. They'll always be successful. But if you have to ask me what's changing, what's going forward, we're not the only ones doing this. We didn't get this idea from another company. We grew into this. That's important for me to say. But the innovation part is blending. It's blending and innovation. And as I said to you, I want people to look at Backbone and go, these guys know how to put together a bourbon. It's almost like I'm getting a meal or a curated meal in this bottle because it's not like I've ever tasted before. And I think when I get Eighth Day, when I get this stuff online, I'll have even more tools to make it even more proprietary. And then, I'll feel better when I'm a little bit further away from, you guys just use MGP,
Yeah.
Right.
Well, don't be ashamed of it because
I'm not. Absolutely
There's nothing to be ashamed of. I mean,
no,
honestly,
absolutely not.
I mean, there's many people using MGP producing delicious whiskey. Now, my question is, you can say no comment, but did MGP...
No comment.
There you go. I'll be quiet.
Actually, Jeff, I think that was an order.
Did they ever approach you as far as buying your brand?
Not yet.
Okay.
Yeah. Not yet.
Now that you're throwing in something else, probably not, right?
I think it's even better. I think it's.
You think they would want to just buy the whole aspect?
Absolutely, the whole shebang.
I mean, it's really cool mixing craft pot still with their brand and their barrels and just to produce this, and then finishing them. And, you could just then eventually be, the taster and then also you find the finishing barrels.
Right.
So that's fun, right?
So Jeff, we just don't have the don't have the bandwidth.
I got the most today. I'm like, holy shit, where'd that bottle come from?
DT's just having a big old conversation in there. He's just going to town.
Yeah, I'm going to throw into Ann Dimmick that you need to be here. So I'm going to make sure that you get into Ohio. I mean, I understand your batches are 10 barrels, but they're just like Penelope. They went to bigger barrel batches. It's just your palate, right?
Yeah,
it comes down to your palate.
You can only do what cash flow allows, right?
Sure.
Oh yeah.
Sure. But I mean, I'll tell you. I mean, the bash. As soon as I took a taste of this, I'm like, ooh, what can I mix this with? I mean, I literally, because it's such an intriguing flavor. The fruits are there. No, you did an old fashioned with the bash.
Mm-mm. Oh yeah, with this.
I didn't, but
it was
we need to come up with a bash drink.
How was it? How did the fruit notes come through in the old fashioned with bash? Because I mean, I'll tell you what, the nose on this is so unique, and I did pick up on banana much more than you get like out of an Old Forester.
Can you do barrel picks of bash?
There's some underlying notes there, almost like a spice cake, something that you've thrown in there, and I can't quite put my finger on.
So we made
this
same old fashioned the other day with another bourbon, and today I made it with the bash, and I told Dirk, I said, "This is what I made it with," and it is a totally different flavor profile. Even the same bitters, the same orange. I mean, everything is the same except for the bourbon. And that bourbon, because it has those fruit notes, just kills it in the old fashioned.
When you
CT, you said the same orange, so it
is literally the same orange.
Really? That's gross, man. You're not supposed to keep cut oranges around for a couple of days.
They hold up. I'm only taking the peel. I'm taking the
you're taking the peel. It's good for at least a week or two.
Hey, they ferment too.
So I love Big Bash. Is it possible to do a barrel pick with Big Bash, or is that just too much?
Oh, it's funny. It's funny you should mention that because I have some leftover stuff from the Big Bash, and I added a few things, and we've rebarreled everything. So yes, it's not going to be that. I don't know what it's going to be, but it's the bones of Big Bash.
It sounds like we need to do
Yes.
Scotchy Bourbon Boy barrel pick.
Yes. Yes.
Bash and
whiskey,
bones.
except we call that the Backbone Big Nash.
Bash and bones.
We just substitute bash for Nash. And well,
That'll be his wedding gift.
Well, I will tell you, the bash to me was super drinkable. It's very approachable, even though it's got some proof to it because of the sweetness. It doesn't drink like a high proofer. And I think you could make a cocktail that would be astounding out of this. I mean, you know, I'm usually a bourbon on a rock guy. I mean, that's my comfort zone.
Yeah.
I want a bourbon on a rock, but I would drink this on a rock. I would throw this in a cocktail. I think this stuff's awesome.
Yeah.
The uncut was interesting. It was delicious. You could definitely tell that you had put your own spin on things. But hands down, my favorite was the Forge. This stuff is killer. This is
right
killer.
there.
I got to tell you, the Forge
Unique.
is, yeah.
It's unique. The flavor profiles, like it. This is Backbone. Like if somebody knows bourbon and they have this and something else or 5 of something else's, you're going to drink this and you're going to go, that's Backbone.
Yeah. So we just changed distributors in Illinois, and Delilah's got that, and the distributor got that in Delilah. So that tells me that it's got potential. I do think that it's the most bourbon that we sell. It's just
another T-shirt.
Yeah,
bourbon-y bourbon.
Bourbon.
So when you get into Ohio, you need to come up here and do a tasting with us, because we'll have you. We have the venue. We'll bring you in and do a tasting, because I mean we're putting it out there on the podcast. That's one thing. Name recognition on the shelf. So when people listen to the podcast and they hear when you actually hit the shelf, they'll know what it is. We did this with a couple different bourbons, and they're very successful in Ohio. And hopefully, we can do the same thing with you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is what we need. We need guys like you and groups like yours to help us in a really sweet spot in the country. So for sure.
Nobody needs guys like us.
No, I think you underestimate yourself. You are tremendous slouches.
We were referred to 3 guys getting drunk in our basements, and CT's like, it's my living room.
This is my dining room, you fool. I ain't walking up and down stairs. I've seen what happens to people when they're drinking doing that shit.
And I wanted to say, prove it. This is not my basement.
It is your basement.
It is your basement. Tiny, that's your basement. Everybody knows it.
No, nobody knows it. You guys just know it.
Hey, listen, Tiny, we all know that your mom wants you in your basement, so stop it.
Low blow.
Yeah, he goes low all the time. It's like, and it's even worse when you're just not on air. All right, everybody. That's I think that's a really good transition to the end of the podcast. I'd like to thank you, Nolan, for coming on and giving your.
You guys are great.
I mean,
pleasure, brother. Nice to meet you.
You're making good spirits. I mean, there's not making
whiskey,
but you're blending good spirits and you're putting out good spirits, and then we can't wait till you start to add your spin to when you're making and mixing.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's just a great great concept. You have a great palate. I know so many people that where they start in wine, if they go over to whiskey, it usually is really beneficial to whiskey, because you pull out notes and things, and it's obvious with your whiskey. So we highly recommend it. Anything else, CT, you want to add?
Nolan, again, I'm just going to thank you. Literally, we're people don't understand. We're in a state that doesn't even sell his product, and for you to come on and take the time with us,
you guys to have me on. Yes, for you guys to have me on means
a lot to us, because
it means a lot to me.
we probably see.
Need a room.
We no, but we do. We try to.
I like that guy.
Carl, full of shit. Shut up, Carl. Listen, we try to promote every brand. Whether, like yesterday, we did a Booker's podcast. We try to get people to understand that there are so many products out there that if you see this in the store, that you're not like, oh, that's just another brand. That there is a human being behind it, that they care, that they're trying to make it as good as they can. And I think that's the special thing about Backbone. And what I realized from you when I met you before is that you are putting effort into this that I personally, and I think us as a group, we want to be a part of. We want to see you be successful. Sure. We want to see Backbone in Ohio do well. And you're doing some amazing stuff.
Thank you. And thank you. And that makes me feel really good. And I'm more determined now than ever to get into Ohio. So, but you guys are great. I mean, great questions, great kind of interchange. You guys have got the three of you got a good kind of back and forth.
Except for Carl.
Before, so.
No,
well, yeah, Carl is, I think he's great, actually.
Wait, you can't say that because he came up with trademark. Whiskey came up with trademarks. That doesn't count.
That's right. I thought CT was going to bust into a commercial there. It's not just a bottle. There's a person behind this bottle. And you can help us feed that person for just $5.99 a month.
I got to tell you one more thing. This is the last thing I'm going to say, and then I'm going to sign off. But the Forge, that I was hungover in the morning, January of 2021, and I came to my office and because my wife wanted me to do some things, and I didn't want to do them because I was hungover. And I thought I got to be useful, and I thought let's just throw together a blend, and I threw together three options. We had some nice rye, some nice bourbon, we have some whiskey, and my partner tasted them on Monday morning. I was like, yeah, that number 3 is pretty good. So that's what the Forge is. I mean,
really.
But
I'll
anyway,
tell you what, man, awesome. You can put this up against pretty much anybody in your weight class, and it's going to hold up. It's a real deal.
Go back to it,
damn good whiskey. So I mean, that's what it is. I mean, that's what we're in. That's what we do this for. Find good whiskey, drink good whiskey, and promote it. So, all right.
When I find a bottle, I'm picking it up and putting it on my shelf.
Well,
all right. So,
I will take a little sample out of this, and I'll send it your way.
I'll tell you what. I'll put it right next to one of the rye cast strengths that I picked up that I know Jeff really enjoys.
He gets a finger for that one. I just like, all right, everybody.
Hey, Carl, you get a badump.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, CT. Thanks, Whiskey, for joining us. We're the Scotchy Bourbon Boys. www.scotchybourbonboys.com.
CT, thank you.
Absolutely.
Nolan, thanks for coming out. I really enjoyed tonight. It's great to hear your story.
Yeah. Good to meet you guys, man.
There you go, brother. Cheers. Wherever the camera is, there it is.
Cheers, man.
Cheers.
Oh, wait. Dink. Oh, there you go. So there you know.
All right.
Dink.
See you guys. Take it easy.
www.scotchybourbonboys.com. Remember, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter, and then also on all major podcast formats. Remember, good friends equal good whiskey and good times. Drink responsibly. Don't drink and drive, and live your life dangerously. Little Steve-O is going to take us out.
Oh, show me the way to the next whiskey bar. Oh, don't ask why. Oh, don't ask why. Show me the way to the next whiskey bar. Oh, don't ask why. Oh, don't ask why. For if
we don't find the next whiskey bar, I tell you we must die. I tell you we must die. I tell you, I tell you, I tell you we must die.
Hey, Scotchy Bourbon Boys fans, this is Alan Bishop, Indiana's alchemist of the Black Forest. So I'm tuning in here today to tell you all about the One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute channel on YouTube. If you're at all interested in the art of distilling, whether it be home distilling or professional distilling, and the intense geekery that goes into that process, then check out the One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute on YouTube. I promise you're going to learn something you didn't know before about the art.